be covering agentic automation. So buzzword, and let's get off from the buzzword and see how or what really agentic automation is, and let's provide some examples on how it works. Right. Before we start, just a brief introduction. Who will be presenting? From which company we're working, and why we're doing this. So I am, to start with, I'm Russell Alfeche, leading the technology capabilities for UiPath in Cubotica, one of the platinum partners of UiPath. So I'm here with Debbie. Debbie, do you want to?
Yeah, hello everyone. So myself Devi. So I'm working as the lead automation developer with Cubotica.
Great, great. And we also have as co-organizer for this particular chapter in Southern California, Pradeep Shukla. He's not here today, so due to the prior commitments, but definitely will cover everything that and hope you get a good amount of takeaways or what you're expecting in terms of this session. So why we're doing this is we want to make sure that everyone will have future-proof knowledge about whatever happening in the automation space. Now it's moving from robotic or structured automation into intelligent automation, and now what we call agentic automation. So that is exactly what we'll be covering right now. We will give you an overview to make sure that everyone is on the same page on what agentic automation is and how Autopilot as an ecosystem within UiPath plays a role within this agentic automation capabilities, right? And how UiPath's first agent, Autopilot for Everyone, how it works, how you can set it up in your environment, even in the in the community version, how you can use it, and what are the limitations, how you can install the tools, how you can do administrative things, and of course the newest releases and features and updates with Autopilot. And have time, we'll be showing you a little bit, if you haven't heard of it yet, about Agent Builder, which is UiPath's service for you to easily create your own agents, right? Again, we'll talk about what an agent is, what it comprises, and how it can help you advance your processes from rigid, structured automation to a more intelligent and agentic manner. So that's what we'll be covering today. Let's start first with the concepts. Just like how we usually do, what is RPA? I mentioned robotic process automation. What is intelligent automation or AI-powered automation, which is the next level of an RPA where you incorporate intelligence, machine learning models, and what is agentic automation, right? So RPA, it has existed for quite a while now. In the past 10 years, RPA is perfect for cost-effectively and accurately handling rules-based. So that's important. Structure and rules. It is best for handling structured data and following a predefined or clear instructions that makes it ideal for routine or predictable processes like data entry, invoice processing, which is very common in any organization, right? So again, RPA, robotic, structured, mechanical. What RPA is? What the descript? What how we can describe RPA? Now, there are processes that we are automating that may require some intelligence, right? Intelligence like understanding document, extracting data from it, understanding email sentiment, and some similar tasks. So Just pure RPA, if else condition structured, won't be able to automate this kind of use cases, right? So that's why the next evolution of RPA is AI powered automation or automation, where you give the robots the skills to read from documents, understand or triage emails or classify emails. So those are things that you don't need to provide a concrete workflow or path because you are using machine learning models to provide those output that you need for this type of task, right? So that's why it's called intelligent automation. Now you are infusing machine learning as a skill to your robots to automate these processes, right? And now we are at this point where we have more complex processes that requires some form of autonomy and also be able the ability to orchestrate the robots, the tools, as well as human component of the automation, right? So, and in order to achieve this kind of automation, right, what powers up agentic automation is large language model. So the for LLM agents, the intelligence core of agentic automation are LLM, right? Or generative AI, right? But it's not just calling LLM. It's not just calling LLM what makes agentic automation as agentic. Agentic automation has the ability to perceive the environment that the robot is acting upon, and based on that environment, you can provide specific goals for that particular agent or objectives for that agent to perform. And then given a set of tools, right? Let's say you have a dispute resolution agent to, to identify disputes within your invoice. Given a set of tools, it will be able to plan the next set of action, leveraging those tools, and be able to create a workflow on its own, a dynamic workflow that you haven't created, so it can plan and execute that workflow in order to get to the objective that you set, right? So agentic automation is the next evolution of intelligent or AI-powered automation where it can have a certain level of autonomy by harnessing the LLM as a core for these agents to sort of like think, like to think how to execute the tools and how it can use those tools to achieve the objectives that you set, right? So let me give you a concrete example of how this kind of evolution in a particular process or use case. So let's say I mentioned earlier, you have a dispute resolution use case, right? So manually, you intake the dispute and assign the case, and then investigate what the dispute is, and then you go ahead and go to Salesforce and update the credit report, right? And then you just based on that investigation, you decide on the resolution and notify the customer, right? Using RPA, right? Blue ones are now automated, right? So RPA can connect to Salesforce and update credit report and SFDC either by UI or API through rules that you define and also other interfaces that you provide, and also notify customer using integrations with email or Outlook, right? Rules, very mechanical, easy. You can define a workflow. So that's utilizing RPA. Only these parts can be automated. But now, with AI-powered automation, when you incorporate IDP, which is a machine learning model that can extract from documents. You can also now cover the intake piece. In this case, um, you can, let's say, intake from email, right? And then understand the contents of the email, classify or triage it. And then if there are documents that is in the email that needs to be read, then the machine learning model can also understand the document, extract specific things, and using a machine learning model that specializes in triaging, let's say this is for dispute, this is a spam, or this is for non-dispute, or this is for inquiry. So you would be able to assign and prioritize those cases based on those parameters as an output of your machine learning model. Now you have automated also the intake piece, not only the mechanical piece, and updating Salesforce and notifying. So you are able to automate this with AI-powered automation. Now, this last piece is where agentic automation comes in, right? By just using ML models, you can't necessarily have a system that can understand and provide an autonomous way to do investigation, right? Um, Machine learning models are very specialized to certain tasks, right? But with the Gen AI and with the ability of the agents to iterate and plan and execute and then perceive the environment, this now can also be materialized as an automation using agents, right? So agents can analyze the documents that were intake, that were extracted, the metadata of the extracted documents, and then it can use tools to verify the accuracy of the disputed data, right? It can connect to Salesforce, it can connect to your ERP, it can connect to other systems as long as you provide the tool. You don't have to define the workflow, how it does it. What it does is it can plan as long as you describe how to use these tools or when to use these tools and you set an objective. It can plan a set of action on how it will investigate the dispute, right? And then, of course, once it provides you the dispute cause, then it can also think on what are the ways this dispute can be resolved. Probably it can also interact with your knowledge base or historical disputes in your database as well, so that if ever there's an existing similar disputes in the past, then it can refer to the resolution that was taken from that knowledge base and then apply this on this particular um, incident as well, right? So that's really the power of an agent. So from a structured automation RPA that you can only automate so much of the different parts of process. Now you're able to fully automate end to end. And as you can see here, you can also inject human element on it. Whenever the agent would determine that it needs human action or human to be involved, it can automatically pass it to a human, right? Through escalation and those types of features, right? This is again, this is still very conceptual, but we'll be showing you lots of use cases and demos as we go through. So now we've seen a unique combination of robots and agents as capabilities that supplement each other, because robots are best on rules-based, can act predictably and very deterministic. If your process is very deterministic, you can define the workflow in a structured manner, then robots are your best buddy for high reliability and efficiency. And agents are goals-based, can act independently, dynamic decisions, best for tasks or workflows that has lots of nuances and complexity around, um, and they are best together, right? So just a recap of what we had. Agentic automation, given a goal or objective through user prompts or triggers from an events, and given the tools that the agents have access to, whether it's Salesforce, email, ERP, APIs, or even other agents. An agent can perceive the current state of the environment, plan for action to achieve your objective, look at its tools, what to execute to execute that plan, and then it will execute until it is able to reach the goal, right? Until it's able to reach your goal. And as you can see here, the tools are the robots, which you define according to the policies, well-vetted policies within your organization. And if needed, it will escalate to a human for review, right? So there's no predefined workflow here, except for the robots, which are the ones that act as tools to interact with external systems. So, so this is just to show you what defines an agent story or agentic automation. So how you define or discover a process that can be automated using an agent, right? Or agentic automation. So what triggers this agent? What type of inputs this agent receive and triggered? And then the rest here: instructions, context, human in the loop, and tools. So these are the main components of when building an agent, right? Instructions contains your goal or role as well, what your agent should act as, what are the instructions this agent needs to perform. So these are free text or free form. And if you can give an example output you expect for the agent, and what is the expected output format, and also context, right? So I mentioned earlier, knowledge base of historical cases or incidents. So you can use that as a context. Let's say you have an HR agent that has access to HR policies, right? So it can answer of any HR inquiries, right? So that's context. So these are long-term memory, what they call as well. Human in the loop is when should an agent involve a human for support? So like escalations, in case there are things that you need to escalate to a human before it can proceed in calling another tool, right? So that's where human in the loop comes in. And tools are essentially small automations or micro automations that the agent can leverage to achieve its goal. As I mentioned earlier, it can be API integration, it can be processes, existing automations that you have, or again, other agents, right? So now let's go over to an example, a very good example of an agent, right? In this case, a conversational agent, right? So that's where Autopilot comes in. So Autopilot comes in several flavors, right? Just skip through some of this slide. So Autopilot comes in as for developers, for testers, for business analysts, and for everyone else, right? So in here, we're gonna be focusing on Autopilot for everyone, which I am referring to the conversational agent as well, right? Autopilot is UiPath's first agent, and if you actually have your phones or laptop, you can go to this UiPath.ai website. If you're not familiar with Autopilot yet, you can do a test run using this website. What are its capabilities as a conversational agent? So if I go to UiPath.ai, I can preview a specific use case here, right? And then let's say I'm a medical practitioner, right? I want to accelerate hospital operations. I can just ask Autopilot, hi, I work at a hospital. I need to onboard someone who's interested in donating blood. I need to check their eligibility, upload their documents, and create their donor account. Right? Pretty complex process that they need to do manually. And then Autopilot will start. Let's check their eligibility for donating blood. Are they
Sorry,
able to
are
donate?
you sharing the web page?
Hold on. Thanks, Debbie. You share. Okay, sorry about that. So I just went to UiPath.ai to get a feel of how Autopilot works, right? I asked how I Autopilot. I work at a hospital. Need to onboard someone who's interested in donating blood. Then it asked me, where do you want me to start? Let's check eligibility. So now it uses the context that it was connected to external medical databases, internal databases, and reviews hospital specific requirements. And this is response. And then it provides the sources. And you like to create an account for the new donor? I will say yes, and then I'll attach the attachment here, and it will read the attachment, and it knows that it will call an automation to onboard the donor. So this is a tool. This is what we call another tool that it has aside from the document understanding. It has the tool to automatically onboard the donor using API. And then I just hit run, and it will call that tool, and then provide the output, right? So you don't really have to go anywhere aside from interacting with Autopilot. It not only it can converse with you like a human, but it can also perform tasks for you. So that's what an agent with automation, an agent with robot is best at. So it's not just a glorified chatbot, but it can also execute and perform tasks to make you more productive, right? So for those interested and doesn't really is not familiar with Autopilot yet, doesn't have even UiPath installed, so you can go here and then see other use cases here. Just type in UiPath.ai, and then sorry, you can get to see other use cases here as well. Now, at this point, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Devi so that show you how you can get started. But before that, um, so when I say tools, right, as I mentioned, these are out-of-the-box automations that agent has access to, right? For this particular session, the agent I'm referring to is Autopilot, the first UiPath conversational agent. So it has access out of the box automations like Outlook, integration, Salesforce, Slack, Jira, and all other 100 plus tools or automations. So you can just converse with it, and it can perform tasks across all these applications for you. So yeah, enough for all this theoretical or conceptual slides. Let's go ahead. Debbie, can you start with how they can get started with UiPath Autopilot?
Sure, Russ. Can you stop sharing?
Sure.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, I can see on screen.
Okay. Okay, so for installing Autopilot for everyone, you have to go into the admin page of UiPath, and within that there is an AI trust layer, and here you could see the Autopilot for everyone tab, and you could select the tenant for which you want to install. So right now I'm going to select the migration tenant, and as you see here, there are set of checklist that needs to be met before the installation. So the tenant which you're going to have Autopilot should have document understanding service enabled. You can do that by going to the tenant and then under services, you can choose the document understanding service. And then we have the next checklist, which is enabling user license management. So this you can go for only if you have modern project type. If you're still with classic folder in orchestrator, you cannot do so. So when you start enabling user license management, if you haven't already, then it will start migrating all your user accounts so that if you are using robot authentication before, it will enforce you to sign in um, by means of interactive authentication, and that will enforce you to sign in by every robot that you have already configured as robot key authentication. The next checklist is enabling anthropic models for automation ops. And to enable the license management, you can go to this admin page and then under settings, under advanced, um, you would have an option to enable here. As I already did, it is automatic. And then let's go back to the ATL layer. And for here, we have one more checklist, which is enabling analytic models for automation ops. So in automation ops, we have a AI trust layer policy, which you can add it to your organization. And that policy has all AI features configuration. Let me show you how it looks like. So this policy has the features that enables AI. We can may have it as yes or no, enable or disable all AI here. So it has also the feature toggles as yes and no for audit purpose, and it also lists the models that you are allowed to use in this organization. So here, make sure that you enable Anthropic for Autopilot to work on. And if you are not seeing this AI test policy already applied, you can add it from here. So add product policy, and you can choose the AI trust layer and add the policy name, and then you can set the settings, and then you can deploy it to your tenant. So for deployment, you can go to the deployment tab and then edit the tenant that you want to deploy. And from there, you can see the A A trust layer product here, and you can choose the A A trust layer policy that we created just now. So these are the prerequisites that is needed for installing the autopilot. And when you are working with autopilot, there are other, like you should have personal workspace in. You can do this by going into the orchestrator of your tenant, and then you can go into manage access, and from here you can choose the user that you want to apply. Click on edit, and in the personal automation setup you can enable the user to run automations, and they can create their own personal workspace. There is a shortcut to do this in other way, like you can create a studio web project and then you can run that. It will automatically create this personal workspace by itself then. And then you have to make sure the assistant using should be 24.10.5 or later. And you also make sure that you have a valid license type for automation autopilot. So what are the licenses available? Um, let's see. Okay, so you have vendor license, the citizen developer license, or an automation developer named user licenses for working with this autopilot for everyone. And then we have to check whether the assistant policy has autopilot widget enabled or not. So if you haven't deployed any policy for assistant, then you don't need to worry about it. But if you have already deployed any policy for assistant, then you can go in and check whether it has the autopilot widget enabled. So you can do that by going back to the automation ops and go to the governance tab and check the assistant policy that you have already deployed and make sure that the autopilot widget is enabled. So here it's marked as yes, which means that it's already enabled. So these are some of the checklists that should be met for your organization, for your tenant, and as a user that you are going to use. And so I'm going to start installing this. So this might take a couple of minutes. And if you see the current orchestrator status, it contains only my workspace folder, and there is one solution folder, migrated default, and there is a shared folder alone. But after installation, you could see an autopilot folder got created, and that would be the starting point of autopilot for everyone. So I can show you one tenant that already has the installation done and how it looks like. So with the demo tenant, I have already installed the autopilot, and I can show you how the orchestrator will look like. So you see a folder called Autopilot. So this will get created when you start installing the Autopilot for everyone. And there are other menus you could see after installation, like it has the starting prompts, context grounding, tools, advanced settings, and license settings. So what are these? These will enable you to interact with the autopilot, and it also help you to set up some admin settings so that it is available for across every users who's going to use this. So what are these starting prompts? So these prompts would available when you open the autopilot, and it will help you to provide some suggestions as prompts so that you could start working with the autopilot. And you can there are default prompts which is already available or provided by the UiPath. So you can add default prompts to the folder that you want to work with. Say, for example, for this autopilot folder, I have already added default prompts. But for other folder like email automations, it doesn't have any default prompts. So when I click on this add default prompt, it will add those default prompts provided by the UiPath. And what are these prompts contains? So they are generally grouped with departments and different categories. And they also contain the prompts that is displayed to the user and the prompts which is sent to the AI for action. So you can also edit these prompts or delete these prompts if it is not needed for your organization, or you can upload new prompts in bulk. So you can create these prompts in CSV file format and then upload it in bulk. You can download it in bulk using this download link. You can create a new prompt by clicking on this icon. And you could also see that some prompts has this triple chevron symbol. So this acts as a placeholder. So when user choose this prompt and want to answer this, this will be shown as blue highlight, indicating the user as it needs to be replaced with some text or input that the Autopilot has to take it as input and provide you the answers. So these are about prompts, and next we are moving to context grounding. So what is context grounding? So with context grounding, you are allowing Autopilot to look into some context before answering your queries. So this could be some documents that is shared by your company, or the context that is related to your automation. So you can have these uploaded in storage bucket, or you can have this in Gmail or a Dropbox, and then connect it using integration service. So when it is available in a storage bucket, you can create index based on that. Okay, so here I have created one index within the shared folder where I have one bucket called, let me show you what it contains. So I have connected to an orchestrator folder shared where it contains a storage bucket context grounding. So within this, I have uploaded a PDF which defines the company policy. And defining the file type as all means that it can read all the file types within that folder. So there are some limitations on the file types, like you can upload a PDF and then PDF text files, and those are in the UiPath documentation. And if you want to use integration service connection, you can indicate this radio button, and then you can choose the connection, and you can choose the folder where the documents are present. So now you have created a new index, and once you have created an index, you can go back to your tenant, and in the context grounding, you need to make sure that you enable this index. And once you enable this index, so Autopilot can look into this document if it sees any questions related to this, and it can look into this document and answer queries. And then we have tools here. So UiPath provides a set of tools which contains multiple automations, as Russ has showed earlier. So there are out-of-the-box automations already available, and UiPath has bundled it into 3 different tools. So you can see these tools in the marketplace when you search for Autopilot, and you can download this and upload it to the solution management. That's how we were doing it earlier. But now you can install the tool directly from the tools bundle by directly clicking on this icon here. So when you install this, this will automatically add it to the orchestrator, and you could see the corresponding automations in their folders. Say, for example, I have already installed a product and engineering, so I could see the automations within that. So there are Confluence, GitHub automations, and Jira automations. And if you go to the productivity, it has a bundle of automations related to Outlook, Teams, Zoom, and Google. So this is how you can start installing the developed or pre-developed automations by the UiPath. And you can also configure these tools. So you can select one automation and you can view its properties. Say, for example, if I have to select one, I need to select the folder that has the automation, and it would show you some prompt description. So this description would helps to find the process which needs to be executed by the Autopilot. And you have to make this checkbox enable for this automation to be available for Autopilot. And we have set as pre-response action. So when you click this checkbox, then the automation execute by itself in the background without asking any questions. But if there is any prerequisite that is not met for this automation, like it is waiting for some connection or some input, which is not already provided, then it will question you that to provide us input, and then it will start the automation. And you could also see the argument list here. So this is the input argument mentioned for that automation, and we can customize the display name that has to be shown to the autopilot, and we can customize the description that has to be shown to the autopilot here. And if you have options as input, if you want to provide some options as input, you can do so in this drop down options as comma separated values. And if you don't want to show this argument, then you can mark it as hidden. So you can always edit these properties if needed for the automations that you are working on, and then save changes. And then we are moving to advanced settings. So this would enable you to have some features in the autopilot assistant. So idle exit. So if you are not using autopilot for some time, then it will automatically exit the autopilot. So that could be done by enabling this button. And using file upload option, that would enable you to upload any files, copy paste, drag and drop into the autopilot chat box. And the system prompt hints would allow you to add some further instructions to the system prompt. And the suggested prompts is the one which you could see when you open the assistant, that it would provide you some prompts like from different categories. So as you see here, there is a department general already selected, and it has the categories create, optimize, schedule. And under each of these categories, it is providing me some prompts or suggestions. So this will be shown only if this is enabled. And then suggested prompt hints, or you can add instructions to the prompts for the autopilot. And then user notes, so you can add user notes to the uh, settings, and it will be available for the autopilot. And if you want to limit your chat history for a particular number of days, you can do so by enabling this button, and you can mark the number of days here. And on saving changes, all those chat history that is available, that is present only for those days. And then we can always make the autopilot to search only for particular context grounding by enabling this and choosing that grounding index. And then you can send feedback to the UiPath by enabling this button. And then we have user acknowledgement. So this would provide you or configure provide you an option to configure the acknowledgement message when you are working with autopilot. And the color theme, you can style the appearance of the autopilot for everyone by enabling settings in the color themes. Like you have option to provide the company URL, header text, and then background color, text color. So all these can be customized according to your company you are working on. And finally, we have this license settings where configure the autopilot to consumption for the consumption of AI units. So if you disable this, then it will not be consuming any AI units. And with the latest releases, there are some new features added, like you can drag and drop XAML and XML files to the chat box. And idle exit is added that we have already seen now. And for the license settings, we can control the consumption by enabling or disabling that. And they have improved the launching experience. And there is also a session ID maintained, so that would help to track down if there is any issue while you are working with autopilot. And let me show you some samples like how context grounding works. So I have already uploaded the company policy PDF in a storage bucket, and an index was already created. So if you want to search through that, let me share what is my company policy on email. You see that the autopilot is analyzing your request, and It is searching into the company policy, email policy PDF. And then it is providing you the output by reading through the PDF context and answering your queries. You can also do some automations you can also question the autopilot with the automations that you have already created. So let me ask something. Let's see if Autopilot can look into my Outlook and answer. Yeah, so it has looked into my Outlook calendar and it has provided the list of events that is in my calendar for today. And when we go back to this, let's check whether it has already installed. Okay, so here we go. So we have the installation complete. And right now I have connected with the demo tenant. Now, if I switch back to migration, I can see the autopilot enabled in my migration tenant as well. And as I mentioned earlier, so you can add default prompts to the folder that you are working on or that you have access. And then you can enable context rounding by uploading the documents and adding the tool sets to the automations that you want to work on. You could make use of autopilot effectively. So now it says that hello to the autopilot and it will start installing the prerequisites. And this is how the first screen will looks like. Now I'm going to enter some role. And clicking on next. There you go. So now we are in the landing page of Autopilot and chat was already started. So that's all from me.
Great. Thanks, Savi. And let me just show you a couple of demos, and then if you have any questions, put it in the chat. How else? What are the other integrations that you can have with Autopilot? So, am I sharing? Okay. So Debbie thank you, Debbie, for providing that and what's the experience in installing and the first run experience. Now, let me show you another scenario and why we consider this as an agent that can think and act on your behalf based on the goal that you set. Let's say you have purchase orders that you want to reconcile. So you can just drag and drop documents here, any number of documents. And then you can ask, can you reconcile the differences with these POs? And then what I want to do is I want to check these POs if there are any accounts or opportunities related in Salesforce, right? So let's wait for it to. So while it's doing that, I'll show you some of the settings here. So as I mentioned, these are the automations that are out of the box that it has access to, depending on the prompt that you put, right? So this it knows how to what tool it will use, right? And call upon those tools, whether it's creating opportunity in Salesforce, getting PO from SAP, or getting context from your database. So it has access to all those tools based on the prompt that you have provided, right? So now in this, I uploaded the document and asked, can you reconcile? It looked at the document. It used document understanding tool to understand the document, both of them, and then compare the document and check the difference between the document without me even opening the document, right? Now, I want to check, okay, please check if this customer is in Salesforce. So since it has integration with my Salesforce, I just ask, so first it will, as you can see, it has the context of your conversation. I only say this customer, but it knows that it extracted from the PO and it is ABC supplies. And then I ask check in Salesforce. So it uses the retrieve Salesforce accounts tool, and it goes ahead and queries it, right? I don't really have to say anything about use retrieve Salesforce account. I didn't tell anything about that. It just knows that it has access to these tools, and these tools are the tools that it needs to use to achieve the objective that you've set, right? And it was able to find it, right? So now let's make it a much more complex scenario where can you list down all the opportunities related to this account as well as the contacts associated? So now this is a more like extended goal. It doesn't, not only it needs to look at the opportunities, but also it needs to look at the accounts, right? Associated to do or contacts in this case. It uses Salesforce contacts. So it can, as I said, it can plan, it can perceive what the current environment context is, and then based on the goal that you've set, which is this one, it can plan the next set of action, what to execute to achieve this goal, right? So that makes Autopilot an agent, right? Because it can think, it can define workflow dynamically without you having to define a predefined or structured workflow, right? Um, so it listed down the opportunities as well as you can see here, contacts, and then if I have a business card right here, can you update the contact for Stella? So just by, again, the document understanding tool can understand this image. So what it will do is it has the contact information of Stella. It will update using this business card without you even opening Salesforce. Okay, I think we have a few more minutes, and as promised, we'll give a sneak peek of Agent Builder. Right? What if you want to create a customized agent, a specialized agent that doesn't necessarily have to be conversational? It may be an agent that you can embed as part of a process. So how do you do that? Right? So um, So just finish this one. So it calls on, so it tries to, after I provided this prompt, it knows that it will update the contact. So it asks for my confirmation first. So once I run this, it will update the Salesforce contact with this business card information, right? Okay. Yeah. So there's a lot of other things that you can do with Autopilot, such as Clipboard AI, which I may not be able to show today, but essentially structured data that comes from this, you can paste directly into an external system, and Autopilot will detect the source and external, be able to map it, and be able to automatically enter that you without building a UI automation. Right? That's what we call semantic automation. So that Autopilot also has integration with Clipboard AI. Um, but let me just go ahead and go to Agent Builder. Right? I mentioned how can you build an agent, a specialized agent that you can um, um, customize. Let's say based on your use case. Let's say you have a use case for a claims specialist agent, right? So same concept that we have discussed what an agent is. So in order to build an agent, you have to have the prompt, the tools, the context, and escalations. You don't really have to know how to in order to use this agent framework, agent builder from UiPath, you don't really have to know how to code, right? You just need to know what the purpose of your agent is, what the tools that is required for that agent, and what the context that this agent need access to. And then you can publish this agent into Orchestrator so that you can have Autopilot call this agent, or you can build an agentic orchestration process that calls upon this agent, right? Um, uh, Let me show you this another quick example of a SQL database agent. So very simple agent where the tool that it has access to is to execute a SQL query, and the prompt that I give it is to generate a SQL query based on my natural language question, right? I can ask it anything about the database, right? Let's say the sales and customer database. If I run it, this is the input, right? This is a natural language question. Based on this question, it will create a SQL query. And since it has the execute SQL query tool, it will directly query the database using this SQL query tool, and then provide me the answer in a natural language manner, right? So this is a very simple yet common use case that you can easily do in 5 minutes using Agent Builder, a very customizable agent framework or builder, right? And yeah, that's just we're just touching the tip of the iceberg here. There's lots of things you can do with Agent Builder. There are templates that you can use here. So if you'd like to try out for yourself, you can um, uh, create a community org, or you can request your sales team for UiPath to have this activated in your enterprise org. So yeah, sorry I had to push past through this last few things. If there are any questions before we conclude, I hope um, this helps for any of your use case. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to us LinkedIn, or I'll post my LinkedIn here. And let us know how we can help you get started. So, okay. Anything else, Debbie, that you want to cover before we conclude?
We do have insights dashboard for autopilot, so that would have visual view of the prompts that were ran so far and the number of actions that were processed for that week or based on the timestamp filter that you apply.
Yep, yep. So there's a built-in dashboard in UiPath Insights where you can track the analytics of your autopilot interactions. Great. Well, yeah, that concludes our session. So for those who wants to review the session, you can go back to the event page and then wait for the recordings there. So great, great to see everyone. Thanks for joining, and see you again soon on our next event. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.